You know that feeling, right? When you were a kid, summer vacation felt like an absolute eternity, a whole lifetime stretched out before you. But now, man, it feels like you just blink and an entire year has just poof, vanished. It's a feeling pretty much all of us get as we get older. But is it just a feeling, or is there something actually happening inside our brains? All right, let's get into it and unpack the science behind why our inner clock seems to be stuck on fast forward. Seriously, it's one of the most universal and kind of weird experiences of being an adult. And no, you are not imagining it. One minute you're making plans for your 30s, and the next you're looking in the mirror, wondering where a whole decade just went. This isn't just you getting all nostalgic, it's a real, genuine psychological phenomenon. And believe me, you are so not alone in this. Get this. A sociological survey found that a staggering 93%, I mean almost everybody, 93% of older adults feel like time just speeds up as they get older. It's practically a universal human thing. So what's the deal? Why does this happen? What's going on in there? Well, the answer isn't on your watch or your calendar. Nope, it's all in your head. You see, the time we experience isn't this fixed, steady thing like a river flowing. It's actually something our mind builds, and our perception of it is, well, it's surprisingly flexible. It's malleable. In fact, psychologists have figured out we don't just have one inner clock, we kind of have two different ways of telling time. And right here, this is the key to the whole mystery. Okay, so first you've got retrospective judgment. Think of this as your remembered time. It's how long you think something lasted when you're looking back on it. Then you've got prospective judgment. This is your experience time, your gut sense of how long something is taking as it's happening, right in the moment. And here's the kicker. These two systems work completely differently. Understanding that difference, it explains pretty much everything. Okay, so let's start by looking backwards. Come on, really think about your childhood. Why did those summer breaks, or heck, even a single afternoon playing outside, feel like they went on forever? Well, the answer starts with how we even learn to perceive time to begin with. So, according to this pioneering psychologist, Jean Piaget, we aren't actually born with a sense of time. Crazy, right? As little babies, we're just existing in this state of total timelessness. Then, around 7 months old, we start to figure out, hey, I'm me, and that's the world. And we start noticing separate events. But get this, it's not until we're around 15 that we have a fully baked time perspective. And that whole slow, gradual development, it's absolutely crucial. And this brings us right back to that retrospective judgment, the looking back part. See, when we look back on a memory, our brain doesn't check a clock. Instead, it does this really simple calculation. The more new memories it filed away during that time, the longer that period feels in hindsight. I love this analogy. Think of your memory like a big file drawer. Okay, so childhood is just this constant flood of firsts, right? Your first day at school, learning to ride a bike, that first trip to the ocean. Your brain is on fire just creating tons and tons of new detailed memory files. So when you look back, that childhood drawer is absolutely packed to the brim, making it feel huge, vast. But in adulthood, life gets a lot more routine. Fewer firsts mean fewer new files. That drawer for last year might be kind of thin, which makes the whole year feel like it just flew by in a flash. Okay, that all makes sense, right? The memory thing explains why the past feels shorter. But what about right now, the present moment? I mean, if less information makes time feel short, then shouldn't a super boring afternoon with nothing to do just fly by? Yeah, we all know that is definitely not true. Which brings us to a famous paradox. You know exactly what I'm talking about. Waiting for the microwave, sitting in a waiting room, or yeah, literally watching a pot of water. When absolutely nothing is happening, time can slow down to a painful, agonizing crawl. This completely flies in the face of the memory theory, which tells us there has to be something else going on for how we experience time as it's happening. And that, my friends, brings us to our second inner clock, that perspective judgment. Now, forget about memory for a second. This one is all about attention. How long a moment feels while it's actually happening depends completely on one thing, how much attention you're paying to time itself. So the best way to picture this is something called the attentional gate model. Okay, imagine there's a little pacemaker in your brain just constantly ticking away, sending out these little pulses. Now, your attention acts like a gate. When you're bored or waiting for something, what are you focused on? Time. So that attention gate swings wide open and a whole flood of those little pulses gets counted by an accumulator. More pulses equals your brain saying, wow, this is taking forever. But when you're totally absorbed in something fun, your attention is somewhere else. The gate is mostly shut. Only a few pulses sneak through and suddenly, boom, time just flies by. So there you have it, the two big pieces of the puzzle. We've got memory for the past and attention for the present. Now let's put them together. Because when you combine these two ideas, you finally get a complete picture of why our adult lives feel like they're permanently stuck on fast forward. Think about it. For a lot of us, life starts to settle into a real routine around our 30s. You got your career, maybe a family, daily commutes, and all that routine means way less novelty. So from that looking back perspective, entire years start to blur into one another because there are just fewer unique memory files to tell them apart. A whole year can feel incredibly short in hindsight because it was mostly filled with the same old, same old. Now, it's really tempting to say, okay, so it's just novelty and attention, got it. But of course, the reality is a little more complex. This model here, the tetrahedral model, shows just how tangled it all is. You don't need to memorize it, but just look. You've got what happened during a period, what you were doing, your own personality and past experiences. All of these things interact with each other. The main takeaway is that our sense of time isn't a simple straight line. It's this incredibly complex, dynamic web of all these different factors playing together. Okay, I know this can all sound a little depressing, right? Like we're doomed to watch our lives speed up. But it's not true. The coolest part is because we're starting to understand how it works, we can actually do something about it. We can consciously learn how to hit the brakes and slow down our perception of time. And it really boils down to two main strategies, two paths you can take. Each one is basically a way to hack one of the two systems we've been talking about. Path number one is all about making your past feel fuller and longer by intentionally feeding your memory. And path number two is about grabbing the steering wheel in the present moment by directing your attention. So, how do you feed your memory? Simple. Novelty. We're talking about actively busting out of your routine to create more of those firsts. Go somewhere you've never been. Even just take a different route to work tomorrow. Learn that instrument you've always wanted to play or try to pick up a new language. Every single one of these new, challenging experiences creates a big, fat, detailed memory file. And when you look back, the year will feel packed and long because you filled it with things worth remembering, just like when you were a kid. And that second path, it's all about managing that attentional gate right now, in the present. This is where things like mindfulness come in, and they are so powerful. By training your attention, you get to choose where it goes. So instead of letting your mind drift and constantly check the clock, you can learn to totally immerse yourself in whatever you're doing, whether it's a project at work or just a walk in the park. It gives you this incredible sense of control over how time feels as it's actually passing. So when you boil it all down, it comes to this really powerful idea. Look, we can't add more minutes to the day. That's impossible. But we can change how we experience those minutes. By filling our lives with new things, with focus, and with rich experiences, we can make our time feel fuller, deeper, and yeah, even slower. At the end of the day, the clock on the wall is going to keep ticking no matter what we do. But what all this science shows us is that how fast that clock feels, well, that's surprisingly up to us. We actually have the tools to change it. So the only real question left is, how are you going to choose to fill your time?